There we go. So, and I usually just wait for a couple of people to hop on and as you do, just chatter away.
I call this the stupid phase. So like, but are we live yet? I don't really
Yes.
understand. How does the internet work? But
yeah. I know it doesn't get any better, but it does. I think when it comes up as a little nearer 0, I think we've got somebody there. Hopefully somebody will be watching. It's been a beautiful day here in England when it was, well, in Wales when it was supposed to be rainy. So we shall see.
So you're in Wales, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So my grandparents, they live in the Cambridge area, but it's really called Royston, which is like.
Oh, I know Royston. I was in Cambridge on Tuesday.
Yeah. So they live like when I'm bored at my grandparents' house, because Royston's like butcher, baker, candlestick maker, like it's all there, right?
Yeah.
And it's very idyllic, and they've got the thatched roofs that you have to replace like every 150 years, otherwise birds eat it or something like that.
Yeah.
And I used to go there like every year from like middle school up until like last year, right? Because of COVID and all that fun stuff. But last year it was me, my sister, my mom, niece and nephew, and we didn't want to like have all that going on with them, right?
Yeah.
So we stayed down the street, and I've never ever actually lived in a authentic English house. This place, I swear, the ceiling was here. Okay.
Right. Yes.
The doors are this big, right? And it has that, like, the house is built around the fireplace, like it has where like the forever stew would go.
Yeah.
And it's like the bathrooms are like modern, but they're at weird angles, right? The door doesn't, it can't shut all the way. And then the shower is like here. And like, I'm not tall, but I'm having a hard time. So like, that's what we need to do, right? But like,
I lived in one of those. But anyway, right, we have got a few people on, it would seem. So thank you everybody for joining us this evening, and welcome. Please introduce yourself, say hello in the comments. It'd be really, really lovely to see you. And remember to click on the StreamYard link. Anyway, I won't waste anybody more time. So this evening's guest now really is somebody that you want to listen to. So he comes from, actually, he's my son's coach. And I will just mention this actually, that after about 2 years, but a year of work, 11 months of working with Jeff, Christian is now suddenly an overnight success. So it's absolutely fantastic. But getting on with what we're supposed to be saying. So tonight's guest comes from a traditional sort of family background where he was expected either to join the family newspaper business or become a lawyer, or failing that, a doctor. And if he couldn't be a real doctor, then at least get a PhD.
Yeah, be a doctorate in something.
Right? Yes, exactly. But Jeff decided that actually that life wasn't for him. He did an MBA, so he almost got to the PhD bit, but then decided that actually digital advertising was a sort of a better idea than perhaps the newspaper business. So he decided to go off on his own, and with his last few dollars invested in a course, and was then trying it, but wasn't really following exactly what he was being told. And at about day 91 decided that maybe he ought to do as he was told, do what other people were doing, not trying to do his own thing, and voila, became an overnight success. Now, a repeatable overnight success until, of course, March 2020 when COVID hit. And boom, his 6-figure business was down the pan. He pivoted. And very quickly had a fantastic new agency, all going beautifully. And then, oh dear, he decided he didn't really like the people in that niche. So he pivoted again. And now, in less than 12 months, has actually grown it to a 7-figure run rate. So I think that is pretty
damn story. Everyone, we're done. See you later, goodbye, right?
So please welcome tonight's guest all the way from Florida, Jeff Miller.
What's going on, everybody? It's a pleasure to meet you. It's interesting because it's really, really cool seeing like where people like, oh, he's made it here. But for the most part, like the biggest learnings in somebody's journey is like where they started out. Like everyone's like cool with The Rock, but they want to know like how we got started. Like when you like came to the US, like $7, like, oh, Gary Vaynerchuk. But if you watch his wine TV videos back when he sucked, right? Like that's where the learning happens. And so what I want to do is for like everybody here, we're going to talk about when stuff sucked. Like when it was no good and everybody was having a bad time. So first things first is I did grow up in like a stereotypical Jewish household of like doctor, lawyer, accountant. And it wasn't like pure pressure, not peer pressure, but pure pressure from the family. But there was like this like hinted at expectation. Like everyone's a doctor. Oh yeah, don't you want to be a doctor? Oh, he's a lawyer. Wow, he's an attorney. He's an accountant. Like that type of stuff. Like it was clear. If it wasn't written down, I heard it. Right. And as I graduated with my degree in finance from Florida International University in 2008, something interesting happened, which is I focused on mortgage-backed securities and credit swaps as a new product for financing companies. And all of a sudden, guess what? The 2008 recession kicked in, which specifically was caused by that people that I was learning from. Like literally, the product was causing literally a global recession, right? Oops, right?
Oops. Yep.
And our speaker was literally the senior manager of the South Florida branch of Bear Stearns, whose company went bankrupt the week before. I was like, oh my God, this is like a bad sign, right? Mm-hmm. Jobs go to hell. Finance is the worst thing to do in a financial recession. And I moved back home with my parents. I'm like, oh, this is going to be the worst thing ever, right? You don't want to graduate and be living with your parents, but that's what was going on, right? Mm-hmm. I end up getting into an MBA program at WashU St. Louis and getting an MBA, so Master's of Business Administration, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I knew I didn't want to be home. So I moved from Miami, Florida to St. Louis, which is like 4 or 5 hours, right?
Right.
I ended up getting an internship at Intel, and that's where I experienced what like how big business worked. Not like what we talk about, but how big business is talking about. Yeah. Where like when they sell computer chips, they're not taking the client and saying, look at the computer chips. They're not shoving computer chips in the face of like, look at my computer chips. That's not what they're doing. They're saying, tell me your goals, like what you're trying to accomplish with the company, and we'll tell you if our product service can help you do it, right? Okay. That's where I learned how to sell. It was really interesting, right?
That is.
I worked for them for like 18 months. What was supposed to be a summer internship ends up being like renewed 6 or 7 times. I ended up like talking to the CFO on a private jet. It's like a whole thing, right? That's where I learned to schmooze and booze, right? I come back, finish the MBA, and I get poached from Intel to work for a company called Ericsson, right?
Yep.
And Ericsson owns all the big cell phone towers. You remember, like they tried to do a cell phone a while ago, and Apple said no, thank you. Mm-hmm. And they're like a secret $1 billion company that most people aren't popular with, right?
Yeah.
So I work for them. This is my forever company. Everything's gonna be cool, kosher, 401ks. Like, hey, I talked about I had conversation about health insurance for the first time. That was a big deal. I was like, wow, this is exciting, right? Like, I have disability insurance in case like my left arm falls off. Like, okay, it's like that type of adulting stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like I was saving money for a down payment, and I had a career, and I was focusing on Lean Six Sigma and business operations and stuff like that. And then this was around the time when T-Mobile was having their up and up. And if anybody remembers that, they were bright pink. They had an outrageous CEO that's very Ryanair style, a very Elon Musk style. Mm-hmm. He cursed at everybody, says the worst thing in the world. Their product sucks. Ours is better. We're cheaper. It's amazing. And as a result of him yelling in a way that market responds to, they were taking a lot of business from AT&T, which was the largest client for Ericsson.
Right.
And so when AT&T shrank, so did Ericsson. And when Ericsson shrank, so did its employees. Mm-hmm. And this is the first time I experienced what happens when the CEO makes a bad call. The CEO does not get the boot. The employees get the boot, right? Yep. And in less than 9 months, I was fired 3 times.
Oh my God.
5,000 people were let go. And it was literally a monthly occurrence of seeing like 5 or 6 buses taking another cohort, another division, another group of people away. And I was like, is this what corporate life is like?
Yeah.
Right? After the 3rd or 4th time of them trying to fire me in 9 months, I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm out. See you later. Goodbye. And I was now 31 years old, living in my parents' spare bedroom once again, going, I am not going to make this a thing. Like this is supposed to happen once, and now it's happened twice. And like, I don't know if anybody's experienced what's called the box, but you end up like you no longer dream big. You no longer dream exciting. You're no longer going hunting and seeing the world. You're just trying to like live. And it's technically called in your means, but it's a boxed feeling. You can no longer fully self-express all that stuff, right? And it's probably the single most livable torture most people can have. Like that's what happens when you have a 9 to 5, and there's a Deborah and she talks too loud and she's on HR, but you can't say shit because she's in HR. But goddamn, I hate her so much. It's like it's like the movie Office Space, right? That's what life is like, right? And I had no idea what to do. I was down to the last $1,000. I said, what do I got to lose, right? I remember being at Starbucks, like shaking in my boots, like spending the $9.97. And what's crazy is that like it was me betting on me, and I was really worried I was going to lose. Like for the first time in my life, I couldn't pin success on somebody else. The economy, my job, something. It was me. It was, and I thought I was going to lose, right? Like that's how far like the rabbit hole would go. Right?
Yeah.
And for most people watching this, they can like understand that, like what it's like to be as deep and down as possible, to where like, go on.
I was going to say, I can't imagine you being at that point from where you are, from where I've seen you. That's incredible.
Right. So that's why I bring that up, because it's really cool to be like confident, to be like, I've got a button on my shirt. And, like earlier today, we made X dollars and I didn't even realize it. But honestly, like the learning is from hitting bottom. Like more people can hit that and experience that and bounce up from it than like being up here, like the Gary V wine videos or the Rock for the $7 thing, or like hearing how like everyone's like, oh, Apple's so amazing. Study the Apple II when the company almost went bankrupt. Right? Like you have more in common learning from this and learning how to rocket ship up than learning from up here, right?
Yeah.
And so like it's pretty interesting, like that sentence of like I was betting on myself and I was worried I was going to lose, right? But something happened, like, all right, it's on me now. And I have the tools, I have the access, I have the community support. Let's do this. And I spent the $9.97. I was worried I was never going to actually like not just like make it back, but losing again, right?
Yeah.
So like I followed the program in the course, and effectively what it talks about is like, hey, take Facebook ads and start shoving them in people's faces. Like Facebook ads, which is not how I was taught to sell at Intel. Like the way I was taught to sell at Intel was like a doctor, lawyer, accountant, which is like you have a sit down. What's going on? Yeah, that definitely sucks. We can help you solve it. Would you like to see how and how much it costs, right? Doctor, lawyer, accountant, big business selling. And the program that I was part of was literally saying like, hey, take Facebook ads. Facebook ads are the sexiest thing on the planet. Facebook ads, like look at the phone, right? Like it would be like that. And honestly, like that is the easiest way to make sure you never get a sale in your life. Easiest way, right? It is like by far the most difficult and the least successful way of saying you're doing selling, right?
Yeah.
And you don't know that until after you've done it. You're like, wow, I definitely need to just stop doing this. And when you think of like a used car salesperson, that's what you accidentally become. Like, hey, this car is amazing. This car is amazing. You're like, stop giving value to the car. Like, there's no reason. Like, talk to me about my problems. I value those a lot more than whether or not the Honda Civic has 4 cylinders or however cars work. I don't even know. So after the 90th day of doing it wrong, I just got so emotionally exhausted that I ended up defaulting to how I was taught to sell. Like I actually regressed, right? Like I didn't care anymore. I was done. Forget about it. I'm exhausted. What do I got to lose, right? Around this time, somebody that was ignoring me for like 6 to 8 weeks, somebody that I messaged and friend of a friend knew, and he was doing chiropractoring or pest control or some type of like local service, like a normal guy, right? He calls me. He's like, hey, I think I'm interested. And I'm just so like emotionally distraught at this point. It's like, oh, I guess I fucking lost again. I'm like, well, we don't do just Facebook ads. We do a bunch of other stuff. If you want, you can come. And he's like, all right.
Yeah.
Like, I can't believe that worked, right? Like, and it didn't even register that it worked. It was just like me getting exhausted, right? Like, I didn't even want to assign value to Facebook ads because it didn't work. It's like, we do other stuff. I was trying to like, they would say like, we do other stuff. Like I can build you a WordPress site or something like that, right? So he comes in and I was like, so tell me what's going on. Just like that, like a doctor, lawyer, accountant. I didn't have the emotional understanding or want or desire or need to shove Facebook ads in his face anymore. Like I was burnt out, right? And so I was like, so tell me what's going on. And he talked for like 45 minutes straight. I was like, all right, so what's going on there? That sounds like a problem. And honestly, like I was being sarcastic when I was like, yeah, that sounds like it sucks. It was like that. But he took it as like, oh, finally someone's acknowledging my problems, right? So at the end of 45 minutes, I was like, look, I'm going to stop you right there. I think it could work. You want to try it? I'll show you how it works. He's like, okay. And I didn't even want to open up my laptop or my desktop or anything like that. So I literally just went to the whiteboard and I drew it out. I drew a Facebook ad, right? And I didn't know what ad to put. So I just put like, I put a square with like circles of people, like literally like stick figures of people. And then I put lines at the top saying, this is what your ad would look like. And he's like, oh, that looks good. I'm like,
yep.
What? No, fine, whatever. And then I go, all right, look, so after the ad, then it goes to like the landing page. And so then I drew another square with other people and then another couple lines with a button that says, I want this. And I was like, all right, so after they click it, they go here. It's like, oh, that's cool. What happens next? I was like, well, we make them call you. He's like, how? And I was like, there's another landing page that says call now to confirm your spot. He's like, oh, that's so cool. I was like, this guy's just fucking with me, right?
So very Russell Brunson-esque.
Pretty much. Like I end up doing like my own version of a like a mini webinar or something like that. Right?
Yeah.
And this is on the grossest, ugliest whiteboard you've ever seen. Like it is not, we didn't even clean it before. I'm just drawing on drawings, right? And then I ended up creating these like 6 to 7 steps that range from customer research, know if it's going to work and what to put in it, to the ad, landing page, thank you page, notifications, CRM, soap opera sequence, all that.
Yep.
And then I said, you know, do you like this? He goes, yes. And then I go, do you want to know how much it costs? And he goes, yes. And this is the first time I've ever gotten this far, to be honest. Like I didn't even know what to do. It's like, you know, it's like you ask a girl out and she says yes. You're like, oh, this can't be right. And you just walk away, right? Like I didn't even know what to say or do. No. And then I said, look, if you know, when I used to work at Intel, and he's like, you worked at Intel? I was like, I used to work at Intel. He's like, oh my God, what else have you done? I was like, I have an MBA. And he's like, what? I'm like, yeah. And it's like, look, honestly, like when I was working at Intel, they were paying me X dollars, you know, every 6 months to run a program like this, which was not untrue because I was doing this and I was just plugging in Facebook ads where it would be a salesperson. And I was like, look, at Intel, like my internal rate for like, if somebody wanted to borrow me, it was like $250,000 for 6 months. But you and I both know you ain't got that type of money, right? He's like, no. I was like, look, chances are you're going to hear my rate and you're going to go down the street to the other guy like everybody else tries to do or has done in the past. You're going to get a quote for like $10,000 a month. You don't have that either. He's like, nah. Yeah. I was like, cool. So what we're going to do is I'm going to charge you $2,900 a month. We're going to do month to month. I'm going to guarantee it. And if you don't like it after the 30th day or whatever, and if you don't get any results, if you don't get like 23 people signing up, I'll just, I don't know, I'll pay your next month's bill for you. And he's like, okay. And he's like, you want a credit card now? And at this point I snapped out of it. I was like, in my head, I was like, what do you mean? Like, Like I honestly, at this point, this is like 90 days in my journey. Like there's some level of like now the box is opening, right? And like, you don't think you deserve it. Like your brain is arguing with itself. And honestly, if he was like, I can't afford 2,900, I can only do it $300, I'd be like, yeah, sure. Fine. Let's get you a deal. Like I would have my self-esteem at this point was so low. I just need people to say that they liked my stuff at this point. Not necessarily like pay me money or help me afford employees or provide value or literally like assign value to the dollars so they take it. Like just tell me you like it, right? Just be nice to me, right? And we ended up getting a $2,900 sale.
Wow.
And there's a recording that we've since lost of me taking his credit card and I'm shakily typing it into like Stripe and stuff like that. And then I go like, all right, it went through. And he's like, cool, what's next? I said, I'm going to call you tomorrow with some next steps. And we'll see that. And he goes, cool, looking forward to it. And walks out and was like, what the fuck just happened? like what the 6 ways from Sunday? None of this makes any sense.
No, I think anybody who's done sales can identify with that. Certainly. I remember years ago, I was doing insurance. I was an insurance broker for Prudential. And very first sale, I can remember the shock of, oh my God, I made a sale. Where do I fill it in? It was a paper stuff in those days.
Like you just get so used to losing that winning feels like a failure. Yeah. And you don't know how to process it. You don't know what to say. Like, it's like dogs catching a car. Like, all right, you got a car now. What? You're like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do here. And at some point in my journey, that was a forced transformation. Like I was no longer selling like the average marketing Facebook ad agency or saying, I'm going to assign value to the tool or the thing. He didn't care that it was Facebook ads at all. Just like when you go in for surgery, you don't care about the scalpel.
No.
Right? Like when you're buying a car, you don't care about the tires at all. But as a poor salesperson,
Mm-hmm.
you lack the value and the understanding you're supposed to assign value to their problems. You think it's the thing, like, look at
Yeah.
the thing, it's amazing, right? Because that's how
Yeah.
you bought. That's how you bought in the past, right?
Yeah.
But that's not how you're supposed to sell. And the
Yeah.
way we got sold was edifying someone else as a pseudo marketing god. He's
Mm-hmm.
the best in the business. I'm paying money, and we're not that either. So
Mm-hmm.
literally, it's like I can't sell me because I have no results,
Yep.
and I guess I'll sell this thing, but nobody wants to buy the thing. So you're stuck 6 weeks from Sunday, having a bad time in this weird catch 22 again, the block scenario.
Yeah.
And the transformation I had was assigning value to them and their challenges and their problems in the journey.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I get it. I've been there. Tell me more. How much do your knees hurt? Is it difficult picking up your children at the park?
Mm-hmm.
When you do bend over, do you feel this creaking and crawling and you're worried about arthritis?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you think this could be affecting your hips and your standing and your overall health? If this continues on with your knees, do you think you need massive surgery that could
Mm-hmm.
cost you tens of fifties or hundreds of thousands of dollars and almost maybe permanently disable you?
Yeah.
Would you be interested in a physical therapy program that could solve this for pennies on the dollar?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I'll guarantee it. Like, the
Right.
value isn't placed on
Exactly.
the ball of the
No.
physical therapy program. That's what people look at the
No.
ball. It's like, no, man. In that, I spent 90% of the time quantifying their problems and providing a conversation of value to their problems, not just legitimizing it, but letting them talk about this. Like, hey, this is the problems. I get it. I understand it. How deep is this problem? Cool.
Mm-hmm.
I think I have a plan to solve it. Would you like to continue on? And
Yeah.
I'll tell you, in my demos, I'm probably spending 75% of the time in that Q&A, that question area,
Mm-hmm.
asking questions just like a doctor, lawyer, accountant would.
Yeah.
And then I spend probably 15 minutes or so drawing this out. And I say, are you interested? That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And earlier today, we had our first client in Dubai
Mm-hmm.
say, yes, we're interested. And I looked back at the recording and it was 45 minutes long. And it was 40 minutes of me asking him questions,
Yeah.
him talking, me acknowledging. And then 5 minutes in, I said, can I show you a slide deck? I think that could solve the problem. He goes, yes. I said, here's the slide deck.
Yeah.
Here's what we're doing. When would you like to start?
Fantastic.
So that's part of the journey. And for people watching and listening, if you are doing quote unquote sales calls and not getting the result that you expect, it's because you're doing a sales call. Instead, you should be saying, I'm going to figure out your biggest problems in your business and you and your journey, and then maybe show you a plan that can solve it. What do you say? Everybody says yes to that. And if you quantify these problems enough, you're working on $1 million problems. So, like, again, with the knee example, right? Like, let's say a physical therapist, like,
Yeah.
I quantified, I said, not doing this and where you
Yeah.
are now could cause massive problems to your entire body, negatively affect your health. You cannot pick up your kids, and you may have to have like $10,000, $50,000 worth of surgery. Now,
Yep.
immediately, we're talking $10,000 to $50,000, right?
Yes.
Cool. What if I
Absolutely.
showed you a 6-week program that could only cost you $1,500, and
Yeah.
I absolutely positively guarantee it?
Yep.
Instead of spending 50, you're spending 15. And I do it with my
Exactly.
clients. So I say, like, how many empty slots do you have in your calendar?
Mm-hmm.
Is that costing you business, or is it really not that big of a deal? Like,
Yeah.
are you okay with where you are, or do you think this is costing you a lot of money?
Mm-hmm.
They'll tell you. Like, actually, like, having empty spots on my calendar or empty chairs or not selling my inventory. How much
Mm-hmm.
inventory do you have that you should be
Mm-hmm.
selling? You've got $750,000 worth of inventory that
Yeah.
is not moving. Is that costing your business? Tell me more.
Mm-hmm.
Cash is locked up. You can't afford to hire. You think it's a devaluing asset. I understand completely. Would you like to see how it can turn that $750,000 worth of inventory into $600,000 cash in less than 90 days? It's just going to cost you 10 grand, but we unlocked it. And you can do what you need to do. And you won't have to call the manufacturer and ask for a rebate, which you don't want to do anymore.
So simple, isn't it?
It's kind of like working out. Like,
Yeah.
you can make it complicated if you want, or just walk more, eat less, and go to the gym, right? You'll get the result.
Yeah.
Or you can go full P90X and get full CrossFit and like buy all the machinery. And you know what happens when stuff is complex? Human beings freak out.
Yeah.
Do not go to the complicated things. We like looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll never do them.
Yep.
Ever. And so with me and my agency, it's super simple. It's a machine. It works. And it's like like a low level skill assembly line factory, like do this, do that all the way through.
Yeah.
So like it's simple and it works, and selling should be simple and it works. And one of my friends, Andrew Cruzy, that really like kickstarted my journey, he's like, just keep it simple. And I was like, that sounds like KISS. And he's like, yeah, keep it simple, stupid. I was like, that's about right. And so like very often one of my mentors is like, if simple didn't work, you didn't make simple work. The answer is almost never in something more complicated. And I don't care if it's like Facebook ads or messenger bots or AdWords. As soon as somebody shows me more than 4 or 5 boxes on a slide deck, I know it's too complicated. It's not going to work. Okay. So there you go.
Yeah, no, and certainly I can vouch for that with my son, and following your journey and following your program. It's when you find your groove and you really understand your niche and your customers, then it just runs.
It just runs. For example, we're now in the phase, or at least like in my intellectual journey with my agency, where we're now in the weird stuff. We're doing weird stuff, right? Let's just see what happens. So like we're experimenting with like cutting our clients' prices in half, and then adding payment plans on the back half. So instead of like $2,000, it's 50% down and then 6 payments of $150. Let's see what happens, right? And all of a sudden we cut our cost per lead down by like 75% in 24 hours.
Wow.
We're now experimenting with like sandbox campaigns or building assets or building companies. Like I started a fake company in Jersey City.
Yeah.
Right? Why the hell not? And to do a fake company nowadays, all you need is a Facebook business page and some ad spend. And now I'm pretending to be my client in Jersey City. I'm on the phone doing qualifying calls. I've got a script. I know what to say and how to say. And I'm saying, great, I'll have a manager call you back with confirming your appointment. There's no manager, right? It's just, I want to see if this ad works.
Yeah.
And so now I can literally go to a client in Jersey City and be like, hey, want to let you know, we have people calling us 2 to 3 times a day that are interested in buying your products or services. I want to go ahead and live transfer them to your office. Is that okay? Awesome. I'm going to send you 5 for free. After that, if you'd like, we have a paid program, but the first 5 are no obligation. Okay. Yeah. Cool. So it's stuff like that is more fun.
I know it's genius, and it's so simple, as you say. I do remember that from my sales day, the sales meeting room every day. It was just kiss, kiss, kiss. Yeah. So
it didn't work. You didn't make simple work. That's it.
That's it. And but I love your idea of actually my very first guest, Danny McMillan. He does a similar sort of thing. He can tell within 3 days if a business idea he's got is going to work, because he will put up ads and then look to see what the result is. If he doesn't get the result he's looking for, he ditches that idea.
That's it, right?
Yeah.
And you could spend 3, 6, or even 9 months studying an industry, reading all the books. As an example, this, by the way, is a good book, but like reading through this whole thing, trying to create a whole scenario, whole products and services. Or you could just throw some shit on the wall and you got a result. Awesome. And 90% of the time, you'll get the correct response.
Yeah.
And it just works.
It does. And no, so what is next for you? What are you?
I think next for me and my agency is really owning. So the idea is like vertical integration. So when you think of like a person that makes boats, you can make the boat and then you sell it to a transportation company, right? And if you vertically integrated, now you say like, all right, I'm going to make the boat and I'm going to transport goods. And then, okay, but I'm transporting someone else's goods. But what if I own the factory that made the goods? So like vertical integration, like you're moving forward, right?
Yeah.
And that is, or maybe that's horizontal. I don't know. It's one of the integrations.
Yeah, that's
right. I don't fucking know. Right. And the opposite is like owning all the boats, right?
Yeah.
And so it's really difficult for me to own all the agencies. That ain't gonna happen, right? Like, like buying Facebook, right?
Yeah.
But I can vertically move forward in my industry. So we're in the medical space, right? So I know how to generate interest in the medical space. Cool.
Yep.
And I do it as a service, and I do it on behalf of clients. And the problem is that when a client cancels, the asset is now dead. All the work that I've done in exchange for money, that's it. Which is like an insane business model. Like we've all inherently been taught wrong. Like, in what world does a restaurant close down because nobody ordered food for 45 minutes? Like, that doesn't happen, right?
No.
Like, that's not a thing. And like, your education doesn't disappear because you don't have a job, right? There's asset building.
Yep.
And in my head, I look at the most successful agencies. They build out that and then they do one of two things. Either they end up buying their clients or buying a client business. So like, let's say I run HVAC and I'm like, wow, these HVAC companies really suck. I'm just starting my own HVAC company, feed myself leads. Feed myself leads. That's how like home surveyors like become like $1 million a month business overnight. Like this dude exploded out of nowhere. It's like he's been doing ads for all y'all. Y'all suck so much calling back customers. He said and do it himself. And now he's got great customer service, right? And now he's hired home surveyors, which is a real case study. Same way with HVAC, same with like lawyers and stuff like that.
Right.
So I got two options. The first is I can buy a client business or build a client business, which is really, really cool. Or I can just move forward into the journey and build an asset. So there's two different ideas. In the first example, let's say I run a carpet cleaning Facebook ad agency. I can then just send the leads to a guy I hired to do carpet cleaning, and I pay him X dollars. I incentivize him correctly. And now I make margin not on the Facebook ad thing itself, but on the carpet cleaning deal. Right. So that's like an option. So I could do that. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into asset building, which is I now own South Florida Carpet Cleaners Association. And I run ads on behalf of the South Florida Carpet Cleaners Association. Get your home clean for $97 guaranteed. 3 bedrooms, all that fun stuff. Cool. So somebody fills out the form and I call them on the phone, or a member of my team calls on the phone. That's awesome. So we have somebody in the air that could be seen, that could see you today at 2:00. Is that something you're interested in? Awesome. I'll go ahead and live transfer you and make sure you're taken care of. Cool. And now that is a carpet cleaner that is paying me for that client. So now instead of capping out at $1,000 per client, I can get paid, let's just say $50 for the job. And I can book 10, 20, or 30 jobs per day. And I have a whole network of people. So if somebody drops out, that doesn't kill the asset.
No.
Right? I can just find somebody else. And so we're doing tests now, which will be really darn cool. But being in a position where it's like I can spend, let's just say $100 of a client's money. And you know what happens? A client cancels. Well, that's just delete everything. Or who knows, right? But now I have somebody and I spend $100 of my client's money and it builds the asset. You're like, that's cool. Like, that's really cool. And now we have an asset that runs and we're doing sandboxing or campaign testing now. And I know that it works because I spent $109 and I got about 41 people's name, number, and email. I got in touch with 6 of them. Sorry, 7 of them. 3 were like not really qualified. I would not like, nope, not passing this through. Maybe it's arguable, not going to do it. Sorry, end of discussion. But 4 people got on the phone. We had a 5 to 10 minute conversation. They're like, yes, I'm interested. Can you please transfer me? Please call me back. And then a lady texted me earlier today. So that makes 5 people that are like, hey, I'm really, really interested. So for $100, I got 5 people on the phone that want to buy what could be a $2,000 product and service. I'm like, damn, this is fun. Right? Really cool. So that's where I think my next step in my journey is.
Right. Okay. So you're not about to disappear off and do an Andrew Cruzy and.
Oh no, I think Andrew Cruzy's retiring or something like that, right? No, I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. Andrew Cruzy is like a really cool friend, by the way. Like we give each other flag and stuff like that. Like he hangs out on that couch. But like I think I'm going to be doing this probably for the rest of my life.
Cool. That's So so it's a business that you sort of landed in almost by accident. A fate of a sleight of hands, and now it's your lifetime's journey. So how has life changed from when you were an employee to doing this? Like your life, how does it look?
So there's a guy named Brandon Becker, right?
Yeah.
Brandon Becker,
iconic Becker.
Yeah, iconic Becker, right? And I remember when me and Andrew Cruzy started to work with Iconic Becker, we literally we were at an event. He's like, look at my camera. I can do camera stuff. And we're like, well, we totally didn't have like a camera guy for our first event. So come on over. I picked him up and we drove like 4 hours. He didn't even know me and Andrew. And we had like a 10-person event. He filmed the whole thing. And he's like, Jeff, man, like one of these days, like when I make this money, it's going to be amazing. I was like, no, it ain't. He's like, what are you talking about, man? It's going to be awesome. Like I'm going to have sex on the money. It's going to be awesome. And it's going to be shooting out with like guns. I'm going to go to a strip club. I'm going to get a boat. It's going to be nuts. I was like, it's not going to happen. He's like, you watch. So he hits $10,000 his first month doing what he says. And he has a proper relationship delivering services for clients. And his 10K a month, he's like, all right, it's not this number, but when I hit 25, it's going to be, I got to be shooting money and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, fine. Yeah, dude, it's not going to happen. He's like, what happens, Jeff? Like, what happens when you make 50 or $100,000 a month, like what happens at that point? I said, honestly, Becker, you know what happens? I eat a burrito for lunch and I go to sleep and I wake up and do it the same day.
Yeah.
Same thing again next. He's like, that's a lie. There's no, it's going to happen. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
I'm different than you. I'm going to get a Lamborghini. It's going to be nuts. And Becker can watch this video. And this is a 100% true story. And I'm like, it ain't going to happen. He's like, yes, it will. So he does like his first $50,000 a month. And you know what he does? He has a burrito and goes to sleep. That's it.
Fantastic.
Right?
Yeah.
And then the running joke is like, maybe it's the next number. So it's $100,000 a month. And he's like 24, right? You know what happens? He has a burrito and goes to sleep, right? And whether or not like that's like a story that is like forced, like we said it would happen, so it happened, but the truth. But the end result is that like your life does not dramatically change because you hit a level. Your life dramatically changes because you have transformations, because you learn something new, because of like the way your brain thinks differently. Yeah. But it's not a money thing. And somebody can argue with me, but who pays for all this? You're right. I hear you. Okay. And who pays for a car? You're right. I hear you. And yeah, you can argue my life is maybe 10 to 15% different, right? Yeah. But the massive transformation did not come from the dollars. It came from the transformation on the dollars, right? And that's where the money comes in. But to answer your question, like my life has not dramatically changed massively. Like in terms of material stuff, like I keep my expenses low. Yeah, I got like a cool place and I spend too much money on rent, but that's like my luxury, right? I still walk to Publix every day. I still argue with myself, like, how come I'm not ripped? Like, come on, like, look at this, right? Like, why is this not like, everything it should be? Like, I still have the same problems, right? But my problems are a lot less of a problem. Like, I don't have to worry about health insurance, right? Which is like a big deal for a lot of people. If I do need money, there's ways that I know how to get money in exchange for services, right? Yeah. And it becomes a lot easier to accomplish your goals. But your life doesn't magically go from like, I was like homeless and then I hit 10K a month and now all of a sudden I drive a Lamborghini. It doesn't happen, right? Yeah. I know somebody, like I was having dinner with him and he did $76,000 cash collected that day. He went to sleep at 9:30 at night. Yeah. And that was the end of the story. I know people that did $100,000 in 24 hours. I know somebody that did $1 million of revenue in 24 hours. You know what they did? They went to sleep. Yep. Right. Yeah. And I think what happens, I mean, I was talking with a guy named Tim earlier today. He got his first $6,000 paid in full. It was like 30 minutes, and I text him like, how do you feel? He's like, man, I'm keeping it cool, calm, and collected. Cause like the way it works is like, if your emotions are up and down, you know what happens? So are your dollars. So like everybody in my space, it's like, we're going to keep it flat. And that's kind of disappointing, but super adult. Yeah. Like, you can't set your emotions and you can't have dramatic lifestyle changes. You can pay for stuff. Like I can give my mom money if she wants. Same with my dad, and my sister. I'm going to pay for my niece and my nephew's summer camp, like that type of stuff. But you don't go from like overnight jets, like Grant Cardone crap. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't happen. You just slight improvements, but it's not a massive like change overnight type of thing.
No. So, how did it change though from your sort of your first sale, that first sale you made where you sort of like, what's just happened to your first $100,000 a day?
Yeah. So that's the better challenge, right? The better question, which is like, what were the internal transformations and changes of relationship with me and people that corresponded to those dollars, right? So sub $10,000 a month. Like I didn't want to be hurt. I was afraid of screwing people over. I just wanted people to be nice to me. I did not ask for money. I devalued my services. I was like, oh, I'm not good enough. It's that type of stuff. And there's no easy way to force yourself out of that. You just got to keep reminding yourself that you're better and hang out with people that are a lot richer than you. Like that line of thinking, like once you're part of that tribe, that's like, everybody's like doing $10,000 days. They're like, Jeff, you're better than you think. Like you just haven't let yourself know. Yeah. You're like, wow, that's pretty cool. And then it takes like, honestly, it takes like 3 to 6 months for your brain to catch up to where you want it to be. Yeah. You change like your emotions, your responses, your visceral reactions, realizing that you can charge a fair rate for your products and services and still have people that are happy customers. Yeah. And people that aren't aware of that, they will consistently charge, as an example, agency minimum wage, which is like $1,000 to $1,500 a month. Right. They'll charge $75 an hour. And like, I've paid those invoices. I'm like, you're undercharging yourself. and you're accidentally going to be screwing me over, which is like a real like kicker. They're like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm giving you a great deal. I was like, no, you're not. You're giving me a shitty deal, and I'm buying this so I can yell at you. And they're like, what are you talking about? They're like, you charge me $75 for an hour's worth of work. What you're doing is you're giving yourself an out. I was like, you're going to deliver shitty work, and then you get to tell yourself it's only $75. That's what you're doing. When I charge, let's just say $997 an hour, I have no out. I need to deliver something that's 2 or 3 times worth more than that. I cannot underperform. But somebody who charges, they get the out.
Yep.
Right? And so for people who stereotypically undervalue themselves, it's because they're not betting on themselves. They're worried about like getting people pissed off or something like that. Charge 2 to 3 times more than you expect and have guarantees. Hey, I'm going to deliver this for you. I'm not going to stop working until you're happy. And all of a sudden, somebody like me is like, all right, you're betting on yourself. Let's go. I would gladly pay $300 for a logo. And if it says like, I will not stop editing this until you're happy, even if it takes 6 effing weeks. I've had people put that on the invoice. I'm like, all right, here's your money. Right. But if a designer sends me it's $75 an hour, I was like, I'm never going to be happy.
No.
Because you're not betting.
Yeah, 100% agree with you on that. Yeah. And it's interesting, the psychology, isn't it, behind it all?
Yeah. It's like 0 to 10K. Those are your problems. And like, you don't know how to present an offer. You don't know how to have a purposeful conversation. You don't know how to identify some of these problems. You got all this other stuff that, and you know, if you listen to like Bedros Killian, who I'm really getting into, talks about the first thing you should do is make your bed. I'm like, oh, that sounds so stupid, but it's so true. But you can't run around town and be like, the first thing you need to do to make $100,000 your minimum is make your bed. That's not how that works, right? No. But it is, and it sucks.
Setting yourself up for success every single day.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And so do you have a very strict sort of routine to your days?
I do. So I wake up at 7, not because I want to, but because the blinds are like half open. So the sun beams into my eyeballs, right?
Yeah.
I can't not be awake after that.
Yeah.
I'm awake at 7:30. I don't shower. I put on my pants. I don't give myself any excuse. I leave the house immediately.
Yeah.
Put on your socks, get out of your house. I walk to Starbucks and back. It's like a 30-minute walk. And like, I don't wake up until I'm halfway there. Right. And as the way back, the coffee is kicking in. So I get to think of like weird stuff, and I'm not staring at my phone, even though I have it. And I'm like, all right, so what about this? What about that? Like, okay, that'd be cool. And just, you let the creativity flow. And when you look up, like, it's the stupidest term, chronobiology. I'm like, that it makes no sense. How could somebody make that term? But if you look up like Tony Robbins' chronobiology, there's this really cool podcast about stereotypically the way humans' brains work is like in the morning, they're creative. In the afternoon, they're doing. In the evening, they're thinking about what they should have done or reflective, right? And once you start mapping that out, you realize how bad 9-to-5s really are. It's like you wake up, you're immediately stressed out, you're late, you're sitting in traffic, and you're just angry the whole time. You get to work and you're doing, but you're still supposed to be creative, but you got to deal with Deborah, the HR lady, and all these emails when you're trying to get shit done. And then by the end of the day, when you're being reflective, you're angry at traffic again, and you've had bad food the whole time, by the way. And then you end up like talking with your wife or your husband about your day, and then you're not doing that because you got all the stuff you haven't done. So like it's the exact opposite. It's why people are so unhappy, right? So like I do creative work from like as soon as I get back to my desk at like, let's just say 8 until noon. Creative work, right? Whatever I want to work on, whatever stupid idea, right? Write it down. If I got another idea and I want to alt tab the hell out of it, no restrictions, right? Just
interesting.
You want to do like a landing page? Nah, I want to read a book. Go read a book, right? Get it done, right? It's not a stuck schedule as much as it is like my line of thinking. I need to be creative in the morning. And then around like noon kicks in, and now I've got like a whole list of things that I want to do. If I don't want to do it, I can either make the decision like it has to get done, so I'll find somebody else, or I need to change my line of thinking. But from like noon to let's just say like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock, this is the best time to actually get work done as done could be. Done, right? Like you want to go from 0 to 80% fast. Don't make it perfect. 0 to 80%. Is this 80% done? Cool. Move on to the next thing.
That's quite interesting, actually, because I suppose because it actually after lunch you're sort of coming to the end of the day, so you've actually got an enforced deadline and the pressure mounts. So I like it actually.
Like I've only got 30 minutes to do this. Let's get it done.
Right?
And that feels a lot better, especially because you've got all the creativity out.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to, otherwise your
Yeah.
creativity is going to leak in throughout the day. And it's like a whole thing. And then you're like, oh, if I don't do this now, I'll forget. You're like, that's not really true, but that's how your brain thinks. Right.
Yeah.
And then after like 4 or 5 o'clock, then it becomes reflective.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I do right, what I do wrong, is this line up with my priorities? What should I change? And you only got to go through that cycle maybe like for a week, and
Mm-hmm.
then everything else lines up. Because this is what
Yeah.
happens. People won't go through that cycle. So it's like 9 in the morning. They're like, oh, all this stuff I haven't done and I'm not reaching my goals. So you're stressing the F out so fast. And then you don't know what to do. So you go like, oh, I need new ideas. So you're forcing creativity at 12 to
Yeah.
1, which is when you should be doing something else. And it's all off. So like once you go through those cycles 3 or 4 times of going to the gym, that type of
Yeah.
thing, like once you do that, you'll feel a lot better. And so I don't have like a stuck schedule unless there's like meetings.
No.
And I have my creative time, I have my doing time and reflective time. And then you have like, you can do your walks and it's not taking away from work. Cause like, I'm going to go be
Yeah.
creative, and being on my desk and not being creative, I'm going to go be creative somewhere else. Or you can have creative conversations with people, or conversations about doing work with people, or doing work, or getting shit done, or doing something at a conference, right? Like it doesn't matter where the venue is for the
Mm-hmm.
work.
Yeah.
It matters if it matches what your brain is supposed to. This has probably been like the biggest transformation for me over the past 6 to 12 months.
So
And
it's actually relatively recent that transformation's happened.
yeah. We can talk about like the transformation from like 0 to 10K to maybe like the 30 to 50K and 50 to 100. I haven't like figured out the transformation like 100 to 500 yet. That's coming soon. But it's that type of stuff that really like has forced me to think the way I was supposed to think and how most human beings think.
Yeah. No, I like that because I really struggle with deadlines and of imposing my own deadlines. But at the end of the day, sometimes I will sit from 9 till 3 o'clock trying to do something, and it all happens in the last 2 hours.
Yeah.
So why not just leave it until the last 2 hours and then just do it?
Yeah. What you should be doing is saying, okay, so I'm going to be creative. Let my brain go.
Yeah.
Stupid ideas. And if you walk around, you can feel your brain identify. And by the way, the best thing to do for me is actually not eat until noon. Like being a starved creative is the best thing you can do, because that's how human beings grew up. Like there's no food. I'm going to walk around and see if I can figure out where food is. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, there might be food on that tree. And you're like, that's how my brain is supposed to think. How do I get up on the tree? And you just go all in, like make weird scenarios in your head, have your imagination. It will fire on all cylinders because that's your brain responding to the no food. And then all of a sudden it's going to work. And it honestly, like doing that is like a bit of a struggle, but I tell you what, it is so effing awesome and so useful. And so you end up being massively creative. And once you start hitting this like vibe and this in the flow feeling of creativity, don't ruin it of like, oh, I'm going to stop and I'm going to go back home. I want you to go over here and open up your voice notes and just start talking to yourself. Like, you know, wouldn't it be so cool if like, you know, that designer, that flyer had like this thing over here. And then we had, and then I have voice notes of me talking like that. I know what I said, even though there's nothing there. Right. Like I have my voice notes. And I'm really telling myself what I should be doing. So when I'm back at my desk at noon and I'm in doing mode, guess who's telling me what to do? Push play, right? So is that
the voice in your head?
Yeah. So it's that. It's fun.
That's recorded.
Yep.
Correct. Perfect. I really like that. Thank you. Now I can stop my son from badgering me to do things in the morning that actually I would be better off doing in the afternoon.
This is an afternoon work thing. Okay. Don't mess with me this about noon, before the morning. By the way, with my girlfriend now, we have very creative talks in the morning. Like she's like staring at her trees. There's like peacocks in the background. She's watering her plants. That's when she's creative, and she's an architect. And that's when I'm creative and I do Facebook ads, which is like advertising and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But there's always going to be one person that like argues. Otherwise, that's cool, man. Like human beings are different. Just find what works for you. And I would strongly challenge everybody watching here to like figure out their $1 million schedule. And that's what I like to call it. Right. And that's not a calendar. That's not a schedule. That's scheduling your creative time, scheduling your doing time and your reflective time.
Yeah.
And what I found is that like with the 9 to 5 work, you know what happens? You get a creative meeting at like 4 p.m. and then a work review thing at like 9:30 in the morning, and
Mm-hmm.
then you have to do work at 11, and then you've got another. It's like, no, there's so
Yeah.
much effort doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just do the zone. Like, just do
Yeah.
creative work in the beginning. And there's a lot of companies that are like figuring this out,
Right.
and only scheduling meetings in the afternoon
Yeah.
when it's reflective, and having a daily stand up at noon to assign the tasks, right?
Yeah.
You've got 4-hour tasks. We're
Yeah.
going to meet again at 5, get stuff done. It's
Mm-hmm.
that type of stuff. And that works really, really well for me. And it's been powering me over the past 6 to 12 months. And it works really, really cool.
Cool. No, that's thank you for sharing, because that's yeah, and it's interesting. You're not part of this whole 5 a.m. club or 4:30 or.
I know the people that wake up earlier, and I'm like, oh man, that's. I'm gonna say I'm the one person that doesn't work for. Like, the guy that did the $70,000 day cash
Mm-hmm.
collected. He wakes up at 5:30 and goes for it. And I was like, no, thank you. Just
Yeah.
I'm not there yet. Okay, like I'm in my 30s. My knees don't work before 9 a.m. Okay, I'm not gonna. No, thank you. Right. Meanwhile, I know a guy that did $12.7 million in 24 hours. He lives across the hall from me.
Yeah.
Right. We were following each other on Facebook, and then he moves in. I was like, we're now best friends. He's like, yeah, dude, let's go. And he'll stay up till 4 in the morning, and he's the most creative
Right.
from noon to 4. I'm like, all right, cool, man. At least you found it.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And
yeah.
so I'm not going to tell him to change his subject, but like, or his timing. But like, if you are unsure or in flux, and chances are you're also below the threshold I'm wearing on my shirt, you have distinct advantages
Mm-hmm.
to just simply aligning temporarily with the creative, the doing, and the reflecting.
Mm-hmm.
And you will see a dramatic improvement, not just in quality of life and dollars, which will come,
Mm-hmm.
but your relationships with like yourself. You have relationships with your clients and customers, how
Mm-hmm.
you hunt for customers,
Yep.
how you ask for money. And I'll tell you what, if you got customers
Mm-hmm.
and you message them at like 8 in the morning saying like, hey, I have this like crazy idea. Like,
Yeah.
what if we just chopped your price in half, advertise that, and finance the back half? Is that something you're interested in? They will so effing love you.
Yes.
Like, beyond a shadow of a doubt, they'll be like, yes, please.
Yeah.
Great. Can I send you an invoice and we'll get it done? Yeah, right now. Like, you will be the top tier, oh my God, person in your space so fast.
Yeah.
And if you want to have a good time, you can read a book like this.
Mm-hmm.
Let your imagination kick in during nighttime and during your dreams. Yeah. Let that churn butter or whatever the phrase is. You got 8 hours of thinking going on. Wake up in the morning like, oh, I had this crazy dream that we did this. And all of a sudden we moved the ad to the left and had a baby looking at the headline. Do you want to try that? Like, yeah. And they're going to be so much more happier. So
yeah. No, it's interesting actually, because I was thinking I've in the group and watching today is a photographer, and she's an absolute night owl. Her creativity comes, and she's just commented, yep, that's great. 3 p.m. to midnight. That's when she's creative. Perfect. Just go with it. Don't try and swap it around.
Yeah. I try to use the philosophy of like, unless they're coming back at me with like, this works for me,
mm-hmm.
you should probably try something different, right?
Yeah.
And if that's working for a human being, awesome. What I'd like to do is like at the end of every month, I'd like to say, is my doing getting the result that I want?
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to do more. No, we're going to change it, right? So
yeah, it's got to reflect.
Correct. So like, let's say like I'm massively creative as an example, not to pick on Sarah, but like as an example, like if somebody's like coming at me like, I'm really creative 3 p.m. to midnight. And I'm like, okay, but are you growing your business? And is your creativity like allowing you to like live the life that you want?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Have a good time. No. All right. Let's try some changes. It's not like, it's not a personal thing, but it's like, let's just keep testing ourselves to figure out exactly, because maybe it turns out that like, you know, we've all been stuck in a 9 to 5. And the only time creativity could come out is like, I'm no longer in a meeting anymore. And it's like, it's popping out the wrong time. Right. And so I have that level of like, understanding that I'm not like the chief of telling people what to do or how to do.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's totally fair to be like, hey, let's just properly challenge each other.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden I got somebody from the internet saying, Jeff, you should do something differently. I'm like, okay, let's try it. And now he and I are doing a masterclass on how he charges $10,000 build out fee and $250 to do a live transfer for him and his real estate agency at 90% margins. I'm like, yo, man, if I told this person I'm right and he's wrong, we would never have this conversation. No. And I'm learning directly from him. So it's a cool journey.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Just being receptive to other people's ideas, because you never know what might just work better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody else has already discovered the wheel. You don't need to invent it, but sometimes you've got one that's almost round. Go for,
By the way, for me and what I do, like I'm really good at making what's called almost rounds. or 0 to 80%. Like my ideas are never complete and never finished.
No.
My value add is like 0 to 80%, and doing that as fast as possible.
Yeah.
Going from 80% to 100% is the most grueling, difficult, and angry part of my day.
Yep.
Right? Like, do you know how many times I've proofread a sales letter and I keep finding typos? I'm like, oh my God, like, how do I keep missing these? Like, that makes no sense.
Yep.
I'm not good at that. In the beginning, when you're like at this number or maybe like sub 20, 30K, you have to like kind of fight yourself with that. But later on, when like you have like a virtual assistant or somebody that you can send work to, like it's so cool taking ideas 0 to 80%, and then overnight it's 80 to 100%. And all of a sudden you got a landing page that pops out $2,000 or $3,000 a day. You're like, wow, I just made that shit overnight, and like, how the hell did this happen? So
At what stage did you get your first VA?
I would say I got my first VA, I think like 2 years ago. And this is when I started doing Facebook group stuff, because there's like too much and I didn't know how to do it. And so I showed somebody, who's like, I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm super angry. And they're like, yeah, have my VA do it. I was like, great, here's money. And then I just kept paying the VA, and then that person let the VA go. So now the VA was mine. Right. And what I found is that, like, again, sub 10, 20, 30K, the whole philosophy is I'll do it. I can get it done. I'm going to be good enough. I'm going to prove to myself that I can do it. Right. And the cool part is, like, sometimes when you have so much work that you can't get it all done, it forces a virtual assistant or a symbiotic or a partnership or relationship. Where like, look, I got too much stuff. Can I pay you to do this? I could do it, but can I just pay you to do it?
Yeah.
That type of thing doesn't happen when, like, you've got like 2 or 3 things on your schedule that are well below your pay grade. Your brain goes like, oh, I'll take care of that. Yeah. As an example, this is like, again, part of my upbringing. My mom was always like, but did you do the dishes? I'm like, I hate doing the dishes so much. It's like, literally, it's like a $4 thing. Like, I should be on the phone with my client. But no, Jeffrey, you have to do the dishes. We're instilling discipline. I'm like, no, I hate you. No, I don't want to do the dishes. Oh. So like, there's still like that element of that, but
I can identify with that. But so if you had your time again, would you have got a VA sooner?
I would probably have gotten a VA probably at the 10 to 15K a month level.
Right.
And depending upon you charge, that could be anywhere from 5 to 10 clients.
Yeah.
And what the mistake I made with the VA was saying, all right, you figure it out. That's not the relationship you want. That's like partnership or employee.
Yeah.
What you should be doing is like, okay, at the 10 to 15K a month level, I'm gonna start writing down what I do and how I do it and why I do it. And I'll do a Zoom session or record my screen or Loom video. If this happens, then this happens. This, I make the zap, and it's always going to be below your pay grade. I'll just get it done fast. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. Just record your screen. And then one day when you're like, oh, I've got like 30 videos. This is like half my day. Could I hire a VA for $5 or $6 an hour, prepay them like $50, have them do these things and just stand by for the day? And like, when it comes up, I say, can you do like number 7, number 5, number 2? I'll check the work, and all of a sudden what took me an hour now takes my VA an hour, but it takes my VA 50 minutes, but it only took me 10. Like, oh, that's cool. So I paid $5 to take back 50 minutes.
Exactly. You're buying back time when you recruit somebody.
Correct.
In whatever form. Right. We are coming up to the hour. So I would like just to say thank you so much for coming on this evening, or this afternoon for you, I think. And everybody, I think if you've enjoyed yourselves, if you can show Jeff some love, that would be awesome. And I really think we've all benefited very highly from you coming along this evening. So thank you so much. Yes. Imogen just asked £5 an hour. Where do you hire from? You hire from the Philippines, don't you?
Philippines, India. There's people anywhere across the world. My group has a whole bunch of VAs that are desperate for money. You can go to Upwork, Odesk. Honestly, like, when you say like, where do I find a VA? It should be, what website do I go to post? That should be the question, right?
Right.
And you're
Can
not
they post in your group as well?
Yeah, people post like, hey, I'm looking for a VA all the time. You'll get like 30 PMs, and like, I can't like guarantee it, right? But people post
so Jeff's group is Facebook Agency Scaling Secrets.
Correct. Facebook ad Agency Scaling Secrets. Yeah.
Yep. Sorry. Yeah. So and I will put a link to that in the description for this video as well, if anybody wants to get in touch with you. What's the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Oh my God. Yes. It's like the waiter comes over, right? It's, how's the food? Right. Just go to the group. We do like a weekly lunch and learn, and get to ask questions on all that fun stuff. We also have an interview on the Fridays.
Yeah.
You get to ask like somebody smarter than me questions and all that stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. No, it's very well, a brilliant group actually. And yes, highly recommend. Anyway, right, everybody, we will see you next Thursday evening for another a live guest. So thank you very much for tuning in this evening, and see you next week.
See you
Bye. And actually, let's